I'm very conflicted right now about this Bosch router table. Dude, just move. What is this table? I'm really debating whether I want to rebuild that or not. My biggest complaint about this table is the switch being right here in front. And a lot of times I need to access the router and I have to reach under, like bend over and stuff to get there. So I'm gonna take that off. Yeah, I can salvage this. This gets dust like all over the rest of the shop, even with the dust collection right next to the bit. I don't need these legs. They're pretty cheap and flimsy anyway. Well, they're really only flimsy because I don't have them installed right. I'm going to use this top still, so I want to make a cabinet for this and have some dust collection here as well as right behind the bit. Alright, I think I figured it out. I was going through my miscellaneous hardware drawer. I got a bunch of old hinges and like handles and things like that that I bought for one purpose or another, didn't end up working out, and I never returned stuff. But I got these hinges at one point, which were originally made for like a folding side table. But I think equally effective, I can have it laying like this, have the aluminum top mounted to this, and then lift it up like that, and then I can access the router and pull it out, change the router bit, and put it back in. This was striking gold though. I'm very happy that I found these. I want to kick off this narration properly with a full disclaimer that I love Bosch tools. I not only have several tools, but I also have several Bosch appliances in my kitchen, so I'm not making this video to hate on a brand that I'm a huge fan of. No, instead, I'm merely attempting to improve. So let's get to improving. I started by cutting down some 2x4 boards for the interior framing. I cut 4 boards for the legs to keep the top elevated, and 2 2x2 boards to cover the span of the horizontal gap between the legs on both sides. I then mounted one side of the hinges to the top of the 2x2s and the other side into some 3/4 inch plywood. Prior to mounting those hinged pieces to the underside of the top, I first added an exterior maple board around the edges of the original aluminum top, really just to dress up the outside edges and also to make a beefier lip to grab onto when opening and closing the cabinet. I mounted the plywood that was attached to the hinges onto the underside of this aluminum top with some panhead screws, and I'm just using the existing mounting holes that were there to mount the original legs. For the material of the cabinet, I'm going to be using this. It is a panel from a table from Wayfair. I think it's like particle board or whatever you see with that Wayfair furniture. I think it has a nice sleek look. Oh, I should say, why do I have this panel? Well, a friend of mine bought this table and it was broken in shipping, and they shipped her a new one, said just don't ship the old one back, it's not even worth it to pay for shipping, so just keep it. Now if I wasn't using this, I would just use 3/4 inch plywood. Here we go. I quickly learned by that oh so familiar sawdust that this table was made out of MDF. Of course, nothing wrong with MDF. I think it's going to be fine for this application since it's merely going to be used for the exterior facade, and all the strength will come from that interior framing. You ever have those days where everything you touch just turns to crap? Well, I was having one of those days when I was trying to cut out the front board for this cabinet. I couldn't measure anything right, I kept damaging the material, my ideas were horrible. I mean, at a certain point I just had to walk away and start over the next morning. All I was trying to do was find a way to mount that freaking power switch onto the front somehow, and it was just not happening. Oh, I'm so done with this, dude. After wasting about 75% of the Wayfair table material, I had one last chance and I had to make this work no matter what. I ultimately landed on mounting the power switch vertically to reduce the footprint, and then having an opening on the top part of the face so that I will have access to the router to make height adjustments when using it. I plan on this thing actually spending the majority of its life upside down on the underside of the flip top workbench. So I'm going to put some steel brackets on these ones, and then I'm going to put some steel brackets on the legs as well. If this table was going to be sitting on a bench top and not flipping down, I think the brackets would not be necessary here. But since I need the countertop space and I like those fancy flip tops, I needed to reinforce the framing as much as I could to handle the stress of the Earth's gravitational pull. I'm confident that the combination of the steel L brackets and the 4-inch screws through the legs will be adequate, but I probably should have added some thicker lag screws in hindsight. The actual building of the flip-top cabinets will be in a future video coming out very soon. I ended up mounting 3 benchtop tools in a flip-top cabinet, so if that's something you are interested in doing, please be sure to check that one out. I think it came out really great in my non-biased opinion. Since I made the base platform out of some 3/4-inch plywood, I did need to add some 1/4-inch spacer boards so that I could drive in some 1-inch screws without them poking out of the bottom, since the underside will ultimately be a work surface. With the frame permanently attached to the base platform, it was finally time to tack on that exterior housing made out of some recycled Wayfair junk, albeit pretty junk. I made this trim piece for a couple of reasons. I want to have it here, it's going to cover up this joint, and it's going to be screwed into the frame behind here, because the latch to hold this lid down when it's upside down is going to be on this board. Just to get it a little greased up. Yeah, okay, that's what I needed. For the back panel, I used a hole saw bit to cut out a hole for the dust collection port, which will collect the dust that drops down into the cabinet that wasn't collected by the port behind the router. And then I got to work on dressing up the maple section with some black paint to sort of frame the top, and then added some finish to the front faces. Now I'm very curious to hear from you all on what you think of this build. Were you having any of the same problems that I was having with the router table, or am I just an insane person who wasn't using it right? Or do you think there are other improvements or features that I could add to this table to make it a better setup? Please let me know in the comments. I'm always trying to improve and learn better ways of doing things. I have been noticing some dust coming out of this front area still, so I made these little tassels, I guess, out of some cloth, and I'm gonna put them in there to keep the dust in there. Yes. I'm noticing a little bit of dust escape in the back, so I'm going to put up a board to cover that. What it looks like from the back. You can see it covered up this gap that was back there. After getting some additional tweaks done to the cabinet, I did a few test passes to check the dust collection, and this thing was running very clean, and I am pumped to start putting it to use. That is going to do it for this video, and again, please let me know your thoughts on this build. I am genuinely curious to hear from you all, and I will see you on the next one.